For some time, Armenia's and Hungary's relationship was somewhat difficult, for reasons that we all know. These tensions subsided approximately a year ago with the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Moving forward, from Hungary's perspective, how can, for example, since Mr. Rubinian talked about Crossroads of Peace, how can an initiative like the Crossroads of Peace contribute to peace and economic development in the South Caucasus?
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. For my friend Ararat, whom I'm gonna meet a little bit later, I'm very happy to be here on this panel and happy to be back to Yerevan. You know, I'm representing a country which is located in Central Europe. And we in Central Europe had been losers for a 40-year-long period of the Cold War, when the world was divided into blocks. And we are also neighbors of Ukraine, a country which has been in war for the third consecutive year now, and we are faced with all the challenges which is posed by a war in the neighborhood. So if there is a country on earth which understands the importance of the initiatives type of view which you have mentioned, which aims at connectivity and economic cooperation instead of being at war, then Hungary is among those countries for sure. Because what we see now in the world is really alarming and concerning. What we see is that all the political movements are pointing towards the world being divided into blocks again. And unfortunately, the European Union, the presidency of which is being fulfilled by Hungary, is somewhat contributing to that. I've been in this position for 10 years now, so I have participated in almost all foreign ministers' meetings of the last 10 years in the European Union. Whenever we have discussed a situation, for example, in the Caucasus region, whenever we discussed any war or any armed conflict in the world, the position of the Europeans was that that given war, that given armed conflict, including the one in the Caucasian region, must be resolved through dialogue, through discussion, through diplomacy around the negotiating table, and not by weapons. And I regret a lot that this approach is now kind of being left in the past. So Hungary, based on our own national interest, obviously, we are against the world being divided into blocks again, and we are in favor of connectivity, and we are in favor of creating circumstances for a civilized East-to-West cooperation. And in this regard, the initiative you have mentioned is something that must be put into consideration very thoroughly. What I understand is the following. Although there are politicians who are bringing forward this, let's say, Cold War agenda and aiming at the world being divided into blocks again, on the territory of on the level of real life, on the level of common sense, this East-to-West cooperation is tighter than ever before. And let me give you two examples finally coming from Hungary. First, Hungary became and I bring these examples from economy. That's why I say that in the normal life, East-to-West cooperation is still going on, and that gives us a hope, I think, that such initiatives you have mentioned, aiming at connectivity, aiming at economic cooperation instead of war and armed conflicts, could be successful. First, Hungary became a meeting point of the Eastern and Western investors of Europe. Because what happened? We are one of the third countries in the world where the three German premium car makers are present. And we are the only country in the world where 5 of the top 10 Eastern battery manufacturers are present, among them the biggest Chinese. And guess what? Why the Chinese came to Hungary to invest, to build factories? Because the Germans are present, and because they are supplying the Germans. And this is not only that they build factories in the same country, it's not only that they build factories in the same city, they are building their factories next to each other, the Chinese and the German. And if there's such a tight cooperation on the field of economy in such a strategically important industry like electric automobile industry, between Chinese and Germans, between Koreans and Germans, then I think that there is still a path towards a civilized East-to-West cooperation. Last example. We are now building a nuclear power plant in Hungary. The main constructor is a Russian company called Rosatom. I think everybody knows it. We are criticized for that on a political level in Europe. But what happens? Rosatom is working together with major German, French, American, Austrian, and Swiss subcontractors in Hungary. So when I go to the site where the Russians are the main constructors building a nuclear power plant, I see German, French, Swiss, Austrian companies working on the ground, on the site. That shows to me that such political initiatives aiming at enforcing trans-regional East-to-West cooperation instead of wars can be successful because on the ground of real life, this is the reality, this is what is going on. So I think that the initiative is something that really deserves to be put into consideration thoroughly and discussed.
I will ask a follow-up question immediately because it's related. Mr. Foreign Minister, you talked about your own experience in Hungary. And here in the South Caucasus, we oftentimes talk about the importance of economic cooperation and opening up transport routes. And Armenia has been speaking in the language of peace since the war that we experienced. Now, the country that Hungary considers its closest friend in the South Caucasus is engaging in counterproductive behavior. In your view, how can Budapest mitigate this unproductive behavior?
Once again, I want to underline that we do believe that politics is a job based on experience. And the experience is that wars never conclude on the battlefield, they conclude around the negotiating table. Therefore, I think here in the Caucasian region, we could be instrumental, and I hope it's not an exaggeration. Why? Because we are in a position that we can talk to both parties of this conflict on both occasions based on mutual respect. We have just renewed the diplomatic connections with Armenia like 2 years back. What happened since then? We have broken the record of trade last year ever. We have launched the direct air connection between the two countries in July. We have been hosting altogether 1,000 children of displaced families in Hungary on summer vacation. We have just allocated an additional 800,000 euros to give support to the Armenian Christian Church, to give this support to the families who are in need. We are about to start a cooperation on the field of energy and setting up the Joint Economic Commission to move forward with the economic cooperation. We are opening our embassy here. Armenia is opening its embassy in Budapest. In the meantime, we are having a strategic cooperation with Azerbaijan, having a strategic cooperation on the field of energy, oil and gas as well, up to mutual ownership in important infrastructure. That puts us in a position that we can help the procedure to finalize the peace agreement between the two countries. In my last talks with both parties, it was an option that Budapest could also serve as a venue to sign the agreement of peace, signing an agreement about peace in a peace-loving capital of a peace-loving country, of peace-loving people. I think this is the instrumental help we can give there. It was at the end of 2021, just after Christmas, when we have contributed for 5 prisoners of war of Armenia to be released by Azerbaijan and brought back to Yerevan. That's what we have organized already. We have very tight cooperation with the Christian Church here, and I do believe that here we could be instrumental in helping the peace agreement to come to a reality, giving back the right to millions of people here in the Caucasian region, including Armenia, to get back their right to have a safe and peaceful life in their own homes.